stop conducting press conferences almost every day because you will never know what is really happening in the office of the Ombudsman. Biro mo, hindi mo alam anong proseso sa isang kaso. Even cases that are filed, hindi alam ng Ombudsman yon. Kaya kung minsan nagbumukhang tanga yung Ombudsman.
Nako!
Kaya kung wala kang gagawin, press con ka na mag-press con, wala ka talaga maalalaman sa Ombudsman kung anong...
Nako, binigyan ho ng free tutorial netong si retired Ombudsman Samuel Martires, itong si Boying Remulla. Kasi nakikita ho ngayon ng ating mga kababayan, tila bagang hindi alam netong si Boying Remulla kung anong trabaho ng Ombudsman. Yan, maliwanag ha, Boying. Hindi trabaho ng Ombudsman na maya't maya nagpapa-interview. Yung dakdak ng dakdak sa social media at mainstream media. At nandito rin ho pala itong si former Senate President Franklin Drilon. Pero bago yan, isa like at subscribe. Masaya na ho tayo dyan sa mga gusto sumali sa ating community. Yung join button, nandiyan lang ho sa baba. Wala ho tayo maraming pag-uusapan dito sa video na to. Re-recta ho kagad tayo dyan sa napakalupit na interview nitong si Atty. Trixie Cruz Angeles. Dito kay retired Ombudsman Samuel Martires at dito kay Senator Franklin Drilon. Ika nga, pag-usapan ho natin yung mga maiinit na kaganapan sa mga nakalipas na linggo. Kaugnay ho doon sa kesyo gustong buhay ng Ombudsman na problema laban dito kay Senator Joel Villanueva. At syempre, yung ika nga, walang kamatayan at hindi na ho natin pwedeng patayin na issue ng mga maanumalyang flood control project. Heto na ho. Wag na ho natin patagalin to. Ika.
Sammy. I
Sammy.
would prefer to be called Sammy.
Justice Sammy.
Si Sam.
Yung mga katwiran po nung inyong dismissal, I think are fairly plain. No? Essentially, can you just reiterate the grounds for the dismissal of, or the reversal of the decision of Justice Chit Carpio Morales?
From the very start, Senator Joel Villanueva has already raised the defense that the one who requested for the PDAF is the Buhay Party List.
Right.
And the signature in the Buhay Party List letter is where the findings of the National Bureau of Investigation a forged signature, not the same signature as the one of Joel Villanueva. These defenses were disregarded by then Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales.
Nako!
The decision of
Dilawan yun eh. Kailangan nilang magkaroon ng fall guy doon sa issue ng dapat sa kapidap. Karamihan nung kasi ng mga involved doon, kasangkot din sa administrasyon nitong si Panot. Kaya kailangan merong isa sa lineup nila o kabaro nila ang ibenta nila dyan sa issue na yan. At ang napili nila nung mga panahon na yun, walang iba kung hindi itong si Senator Joel Villanueva.
Carpio Morales came about towards the last week of October.
In 2018.
In 2016.
2016, right.
2016. When I was appointed in 2018, after an inventor of the cases, I found out that there was this pending motion for reconsideration. So I requested the bureau concerned to immediately act on that motion for reconsideration, which they endorsed to me sometime in July of 31 of 2019.
Right.
On September 13, I approved the recommendation of the Bureau to dismiss or to grant the motion for reconsideration of Joel Villanueva.
The first question, Justice Sammy, was that when was the motion for reconsideration filed? I heard you in one interview, you mentioned that you assumed that it was timely filed. But would you have an exact date when the motion for reconsideration was filed by Senator Joel Villanueva?
I was told and sent a copy actually by the first page of the motion for of the resolution. It appears that Joel Villanueva filed his motion for reconsideration within the 10-day period to file a motion for reconsideration. Because there are two periods in the Ombudsman. 5 days when it comes to criminal cases and 10 days when it comes to administrative cases.
And this is an administrative case?
This is an administrative case.
Senator Dillon, you've gone through this. You've been a senator for so long. So how do you view the whole...
Well, firstly, I haven't seen the decisions and therefore if I comment, it is only on the jurisdiction of the Ombudsman. It is very clear that under our Constitution and the Ombudsman Act, the Ombudsman has no jurisdiction over members of Congress.
Boying, makinig ka, makinig. Kaya pala hindi niya pinadala sa dahig Netherlands itong si Senator. Hindi, kala ko susugod na eh. Kala ko ipapadala na sa daig eh. Sen Joel, huwag ka masyado maglilipad ha. Pero huwag ka maglala, wala. Ito eh, galing dito mismo kay former DOJ Secretary Franklin Drilon, former Senate President Franklin Drilon, na walang jurisdiction. Kaya nagmamadali itong si Boying na ipakuha yung papel tsaka ballpen eh. Susulatan niya daw eh. Kasi walang kapangyarihan ang ombudsman laban dito sa mga senador na to. Sila lang ang pwedeng makapagtanggal sa mga sarili nila.
You may not like that rule, but that's the rule in our Constitution, that all that members of Congress can only be questioned in the Senate or in the House.
What are you suggesting? What are you suggesting?
I am not suggesting anything. That's the reason why the Senate at the time did not favorably act on the recommendation or on the dismissal order, because the legal counsel of the Senate in a memo said that they have no jurisdiction over senators. And I think Tito Soto was then the majority leader and brought this before the plenary. And indeed, as a lawyer, when I was reading the Constitution, really, the Ombudsman has no jurisdiction over senators and Congress. Having said that, it is clear that the Senate has not acted on this. The issue has not been brought to the Senate on the merits as to whether or not there is a basis for the malfeasance charge of Villanueva. Sad to say, we are not bound. I mean, that's really sad. But we are not bound by what the Ombudsman says. We have our own proceedings. A case can be filed before the Senate today. As Justice Carpio said, there is no, Tony Carpio, there is no prescription insofar as the grounds insofar as the Senate is concerned. Now, the issue as to whether or not, these offenses were committed, allegedly, during the time that Senator Villanueva was still a congressman.
Right.
And therefore, it can be asserted that having been elected as a senator, the alleged offenses committed before he became a member of the Senate was abolished by the fact of his election to the Senate. This is the Aguinaldo Doctrine,
which has been
vacated.
Yes.
And for the benefit of our audience, Aguinaldo pertains to Governor Aguinaldo of Cagayan,
That's right.
who was subject of a disciplinary action, but raised the issue of his having been re-elected as governor of Cagayan. And the court, in the first line of cases, said yes, that's why there is the so-called Aguinaldo Doctrine, but which subsequently was vacated. So now the issue is the question: can somebody bring a case against Joel on the basis of the incident? My answer is yes. The issue of whether or not the Aguinaldo Doctrine is still applicable is a matter that would be put on the table. But the decision will be up to the Senate. And they will be deciding on the basis of the case filed directly in the Senate and the evidence presented in the Senate, but not on the basis of the Ombudsman's decision. Because, correctly, the Ombudsman, with all due respect, has no jurisdiction over senators and
Agreed. Just to clarify.
Hoy, Boyeng! Boyeng, ano na? Pambira ka, bida-bida ka kasi. Ang problema mo kasi kay Boyeng Remulla Sulat ako. Buhay niyang labang kay Joel Villanueva. Kaya pala itong si Conchita Carpio Morales, ang nagawa lang niya, sulatan yung, yung kung sino man ang Senate President noong mga panahon na yun. Kasi walang jurisdiction ang Ombudsman. yung mga impeachable government official, ay hindi pala impeachable, yung mga hindi impeachable government official, kasi pati yata yung mga impeachable, siya impeachment lang yung pwede tanggalin. Pero pwede daw siya imbestigahan. Kumbaga yung investigasyon na gagawin, para yun ang gamitin sa impeachment trial. Talaga si Boy hindi lang magaling mag-bend ng law. Magaling pang yung dinadivert nila yung attention ng mga kababayan natin. Ngayon, tapos na kay Senator Joel, nakuryente siya doon. Ano na naman kaya kabalbalang maiisip nitong si Boying Remulla? Abangan lang natin.
Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales sent a copy of the decision to the Senate in 2016, to which the Senate replied that they have no jurisdiction.
I mean, that Ombudsman has no jurisdiction.
Yes, the Ombudsman does not have jurisdiction, and therefore no further discussions on the case were conducted.
That's correct.
So if the case were again brought up, wouldn't Senator Villanueva just simply raise the same issue of jurisdiction?
No, because now what will be discussed will be the merits of the malfeasance. The jurisdiction will no longer be questioned.
Yes.
I repeat,
I agree.
the reason why the Senate did not implement Conchita Carpio Morales' decision, even if it was correct, the reason why we did not act on it is because of lack of jurisdiction. And the four of us here are lawyers. No matter how brilliant or good you are, if the court has the jurisdiction, the court has the jurisdiction. Period.
Yes,
But just to be clear, but the acts were committed when he was still a member of Congress.
That's right.
Specifically the House of Representatives.
That's right.
Now you're taking jurisdiction because he's already a senator, but the acts were committed when he was House. Are you still saying that you can
I am
invoke
not
jurisdiction?
saying that. What I'm just saying is it can be litigated before the Senate as a body. Initially with the Committee on Ethics, and the arguments will be raised in the Senate as to whether or not he is still liable for the acts committed while he was a congressman on the basis of the Aguinaldo Doctrine, and whoever will file a case against him will argue that the Aguinaldo Doctrine is no longer applicable. All I'm saying is that the case of Villanueva can be tried on the merits in the Senate. It has never been tried there. Now, the merits include the matter of whether or not the Aguinaldo Doctrine applies. That's basically what will happen. So that the issue of whether or not the Ombudsman had jurisdiction or has jurisdiction is a settled issue. In other words, the Ombudsman has no jurisdiction, but the Senate as a body has jurisdiction under the Constitution and under the Constitution over members of Congress.
Sir Sam, what is this matter of a secret decision? Is there such a thing as a secret decision? I mean, we all know that there are certain decisions that are published. The Supreme Court publishes its decisions.
All
because they
decisions are published. That's it.
Yes.
No, but there are also minute resolutions, Justice Sami,
Yes,
of course,
yeah.
which are not. Those are the. I think I remember Justice Sami saying in his statement that there are Supreme Court decisions that are not published. Tama ba?
Yes.
Unpublished.
Unpublished, and I think you are referring to minute resolutions po ba?
Not just minute resolutions. Not all decisions of the Supreme Court goes into the ESCRA or the Philippine Reports
Yes.
or are published in ESCRA.
But doesn't mean that if it doesn't go to the ESCRA or to the SCRA, it's not public. I mean, the publication is through SCRA and through, but I think all
online,
decisions are published in the General Records or GR.
Yes, in the
In
GR.
GR, yes.
So how I think the first person to describe it as secret was either Ombudsman Boy or the other.
Actually,
No, it was
what really
already,
happened is in the chronology of events, Ombudsman Remulla was saying that he will request the Senate President to implement the dismissal order issued by Carpio Morales.
And this was because he didn't know that there was already an
Yes.
existing reversal order.
But then when somebody told him that that order was already reversed in a motion for reconsideration that was granted by Ombudsman Martires, he suddenly shifted and said, that is a surprise or a secret decision that just saw on my table. Of all cases, this is the only decision that fell on his table. There are other decisions that I issued, that I signed, that didn't fall on his table. And besides, if just the motion for reconsideration was given to him, why didn't he ask the records of the case from the Central Records Division? Why must he say that there is a secret decision? That is the reason why I am actually becoming violent in my talks, in what I say, because it connotes that an anomaly or irregularity was created. He further said, the only ones who knew about the resolution of the Ombudsman is Ombudsman Martires and Joel Villanueva. That is not true. That is an insult on the investigating officer who made the recommendation to her director, who likewise recommended that to the assistant ombudsman before they forwarded it to the office of the ombudsman.
Okay, medyo umiinit na si Justice Sammy, medyo ano siya, no? Kita mo yung kanyang vigor. And I saw FMD also put out his ballpen. Talagang magkakaroon tayo ng magandang pag-uusap. So, we'll take a break first. The spokes will come back later.
Oh. Ano na ho, forward na ho natin. Medyo mabigat-bigat ang usapan dito kasi malulupit na abogado ho nandito sa ano na to, dito sa video na to. Tuloy natin. Ako, yan na.
Welcome back. You're watching The Spokes. So we're talking about the decision of, the controversy around the alleged secret decision. So, nasabi nyo nga ho na nag-umpisa to dahil kay Ombudsman Remulla. Pero dito po sa, I saw your statement, Justice Sammy, where you, I just want to clarify certain things. No? Like, there was a statement you made that you're saying, kasama sa people are public officials. You're concerned about the future of the public officials. But if I recall, our constitution was very clear, no? The ombudsman, being the protectors of the people, shall act on complaints of public officials. So there's a clear demarcation between people and public officials po. So medyo parang may inversion po nung idea, the definition of people doon eh.
Well, people will refer people as a whole.
Right.
But we're talking here of the fight against graft and corruption.
Right.
So we have to protect the people from corrupt government officials.
Correct.
Okay? So yun ang sinasabi ko. But in my own context, I just don't have to protect the rights of the people, the complainants. I also have to protect the rights of the respondent.
But the rights of the respondent are already covered by the due process. I mean,
Yes.
as an ombudsman, you have to ensure that due process notice, lahat po ng
Yes,
kailangan sa
yes.
due process are already there. So,
Yes.
Once you've made sure that the process was fair, that due process already satisfied.
Actually, I made that statement in relation to the question that why am I not publicizing? Why am I not talking about it? Why should I talk about a case where I am not sure whether on the guilt of the accused? Remember that our role is only to determine probable cause for purposes of filing an information.
But this was a reversal. This wasn't the case going further to the Sandigan Bayan. So my question is, for instance, if somebody's case was reversed, I should be happy, and there shouldn't be any reason why you should not release. Because I recall, in the case of Secretary Jun Abaya, it was a decision that you made under your administration, under your term as ombudsman in November 2020.
Yes.
It came out in January 12 of 2021. In fact, because I knew it because Jun Abaya told me that, and it was published also, media carried that news. Here, none of the media was able to catch it. You've already dismissed or reversed the decision. That's my discomfort because on one hand, you release the reversal order of Jun Abaya. In this case, you did not publish the reversal order of Senator Joel Villanueva.
No, in the case of Abaya, I did not have it published.
But it was reported in the news.
It was the reporters who got
Correct.
a copy of the decision.
Correct.
In the case of Villanueva, I was asked actually by the Media Bureau, are we going to publish this? I said, no.
Why not?
Why not? If I publish it, if I talk about it, sasabihin ng tao, kinakatigan ko si Joel Villanueva. Okay? Kinakampihan ko si Joel Villanueva. At the time I signed, I approved that resolution
Yes.
granting the motion for reconsideration, hindi ko kilala si Joel Villanueva. The first time I met him was in the Senate during the budget hearing. I don't know Joel Villanueva. Kaya lang, pag binigyan ng kulay, di ba? In much the same way ngayon, yung secret decision, binigyan ng kulay eh. But haven't you noticed that I am now the flavor of the month? And the flavor of the month before was flood control projects,
Yan,
ghost
nako.
projects. Nakalimutan na natin yon. The flavor of the month was the trillion
Secret
peso
decision.
march.
Yan.
Nakalimutan na ng
Nakalimutan
tao.
na.
Hindi pa naman po.
So is this not a way to divert the attention of the people? You know?
Senator Drilon,
What?
your thoughts, kasi nakangiti kayo kanina eh.
Which part?
Flood control.
May notes ka pa nga dyan, no?
You know, we want to talk about flood control? My goodness gracious. You know, it's the worst corruption episode that I have heard in my life, and I never saw this in my 24 years in the Senate, nor in my 34 years in public service. Talagang garapal na.
Garapal
And
na.
I guess the question that would
Ngayon, kung garapal na, sino dapat mabigyan dito sa isa na to? Di ba dapat talaga merong mabigyan dito eh. Pagka walang nabigyan dito, magtutuloy-tuloy lang ho itong mga kababayan. Ngayon, kung sinasabi nitong si former Senate President Franklin Drilon, napakagarapal. Pinakamalalang korupsyon sa nangyari na naalala niya sa kasaysayan ng sang sinuko bilang. Hindi, meron pong, hindi, linampasan ho, linampasan niya yung pagnanakaw na nangyari noong panahon ng kanyang amang magnanakaw ni si Marcos Sr. Kaya ngayon, dapat meron talagang mabigyan dito. At pagka sinabing mabigyan, hindi lang ho dapat yung mga kontraktor at mga district engineer. Ang inihingi hong dugo ng ang mga sambayan ng Pilipino yung mga magnanakaw na congressman. Dapat silang mabigyan dito. Yung ulo nila ang kailangan namin. Pag sinabing ulo, sila dapat makulong ha. Wag yung anuhin, ika nga. Hinahanap namin yung ulo ng mga congressman. Kailangan silang makulong dito sa flood control anomaly na to.
be asked is, how did we get here? How did we get to this situation where the corruption was so widespread from Tawi-Tawi to the north, you know? And to me, very simple, I mean, it's simple, but it has developed, what we have developed is a culture of impunity. Wala na pong takot ang tao sa batas eh. And while we love to say, we lawyers love to say, rule of law, today, the rule of law is only a suggestion.
Oh.
Baka naman nabag sa batas yan.
Like traffic
It's no
lights.
longer an issue of you following the law strictly, but because the suggestion is that is the rule of law. And to me, I'm very disturbed. And the lack of respect for the law is a result of what we have today. Our pillars of justice are very weak. The institutions that are supposed to exact accountability are weakened. So these to me, prosecution, investigation, adjudication, punishment, and even society. Oh, just the last one. Ito, in our last hearing, I was invited by the Committee on Justice in the Senate to talk about the ICI. On that same day, the office of the DPWH was burned. So what do you think was on the headline the following day? It is not what we said in the ICI hearing on the jurisdiction, etc., but the burning of the DPWH building. This is what disturbs me. Also, so that's why I'm saying everybody bears the blame, and everybody should take a second look, should look back and see why did we get to this? Why did we get to this? You remember, even after you punish
Ayan o, nag-aano na tong si Frankie. Itong si Frankie medyo ika nga nag-iiba na ng tono kasi dati bilib na bilib din ito kay Marcos Jr. Ngayon ho, dapat daw sinong sisihin? Nagpaparamdam na ho siya kasi pansin siguro ng mama, bakit parang nasisisi yung mga maliliit at yung talagang mastermind hindi natututukan? Sino dapat mapanis? Diba? Sino dapat mabigyan? Ngayon, tanong ho natin yan sa ating mga kababayan. Mag-comment ho kayo sa baba kung sakaling, kung sa tingin nyo, yung si Martin Romualdez, si Saldico, si Marcos Jr., walang pananagutan dito sa isa na to, ano na ho kayo, comment nyo na, mag-comment ho kayo dyan sa baba. Kasi kung tayo tatanungin dito kung meron dapat matusta dito, kung meron dapat mabigyan dito, walang iba kundi yung si Martin Romualdez, Saldico at yan si Marcos Jr., si Grace po. Kung mapasama si Escudero, wala ho tayong pakialam kasi ang pinag-uusapan natin dito nung magkakakampi pa sila, magkakaklose pa sila, nung binabalangkas tong 2025 budget na kung saan talagang pinagtutulungan nila itong si VP Sara, di ba? Maging yan si Yichi, sinabi niya nun, kahit ako ayaw kay Sara Duterte. Di ba? Hindi daw siya natutuwa kay VP Sara. Oh. Pero hindi naman ibig sabihin doon sa sinabi niya na yun, yun ang dahilan kung bakit gusto natin siya mapasama. Lahat ng ika nga isinausaw nila ang kanilang hintuturo dyan sa mga pera na yan ng flood control, mapabarangay tanod o kapitan o lahat ng ika nga naging bagman, o mga lahat ng merong kasangkot dito sa anomalya na to, malaki, maliit, lahat dapat mabigyan. Pagka nabigyan lang dyan, mga district engineer at mga contractor, malaki yung problema natin.
It's the guilty. Look at the case of Mayor Antonio Sanchez. Nagkagulo tuloy because there were attempts to free him. So to me, it calls for an overall review and the consciousness that sama-sama tayo dito lahat. If our system would collapse, you go back to martial law because then people will be looking for a strong arm to let the people behave.
You know, from that, let me just ask a final question to the both Justice Sami and FMD.
Yun ang hindi kayang gawin ni Marcos Jr. Yung sinasabi niyang strong arm nitong si former Senator Franklin Drilon, wala yan. Dito sa nangyayari na to, pagka diniklara nyo mamaya martial law, sigurado, ihanda yun na yung mga Remulla nyo. Yun ang sinisigurado ko dito, mga kababayan. Pagka nagdeklara ng martial law itong si Marcos Jr., yung Remulla bagay, labas yun na at mag-impake na kayo. Hindi ho yung pwede. Dahil umiinit ang taong bayan, dahil sa issue ng korupsyon, lumalabas ang ating mga kababayan, nagkakagulo sa kalsada, tapos dideklara ka ng martial law. Yung panawagan lang naman ng mga nasa kalsada at yung mga nasa social media ang magkaroon ng karapat-dapat na pagdinig, magkaroon ng karapat-dapat na hustisya dyan sa partikular na issue na yan ng maanumalyang flood control project. Ngayon, pagka hindi tayo nabigyan ng ganyan, malaki ho talaga ika nga ang magiging problema natin dito.
After all the revelations, after all these reversals, can we still trust the Ombudsman as the premier accountability institution, not a judicial, not a quasi-judicial tribunal, but as an accountability institution? Can we still trust the process in the Ombudsman?
I'll make this statement. The people are not convinced that we are in a system where the rule of law is the primary system that governs the conduct of men. That portion of the belief is eroded, and not only on the Ombudsman, but in all the 5 pillars of justice. And that is a sad commentary on where we are today. You know, when we were hearing when I attended the hearing of the ICI, there were suggestions that we grant the power to search and arrest on the part of the ICI.
I saw that.
Goodness gracious. I have just one answer. Do you want to go back to the regime of the ASO? When the arrest and seizure were ordered by the
Frank, maraming Gen Z rito, pwede nilang ASO.
That is, in effect, what you're looking for. Is that what we want? So everybody stops to talk because they realize that what they're thinking of is a situation where you threw everything in the wastebasket and because you are righteous. You know, so that is, I am an advocate that what we have today is an erosion of the belief of our people in the rule of law. So we must do everything, everybody in society involved in having an orderly society, involved in also restoring back our people's faith in our rule of law and our justice system.
Sir Sam, what do you think of this whole thing as a final wrap-up on what is your take on what's going on right now?
Well, I look at it as, as a diversionary tactic, as I
correct.
said, to let the people in the meantime forget about the ghost projects, about the flood control anomalies. So divert it to the secret decision, which there is no secret decision. The secret decision is just, yung bukang bibig lang ni Ombudsman Remulla. But I would advise Ombudsman Remulla, if you are listening, you work. Stop conducting press conferences almost every day because you will never know what is really happening in the office of the Ombudsman. Biro mo, hindi mo alam anong proseso sa isang kaso. Hindi mo alam kung bakit nagkaroon. I do not blame Justice Carpio Morales na hindi niya alam yung motion for reconsideration. Why? Once a motion for reconsideration is filed, the Ombudsman is not informed. The Records Division sends that motion for reconsideration together with the records immediately to the handling hearing officer, the one who issued the decision. Unless the hearing officer, his or her director, and his or her assistant ombudsman will tell the ombudsman, doon lang malalaman ng ombudsman. In my case, there are a lot of times when reporters would ask me, Justice, what happened to the motion for reconsideration filed Mr. X? Mayroon ba? So hahanapin ko yung kaso, I will ask them. Even cases that are filed, hindi alam ng ombudsman yon. Kaya kung minsan nagmumukhang tanga yung ombudsman.
Nako.
Kaya kung wala kang gagawin, press con ka na mag-press con, wala ka talaga maalalaman sa ombudsman ko nung... Now, why is it...
Wala kasi presko na presko, boying. Para kang Martires eh. Hindi po pagka merong nalaman, kailangan mabilis pa sa alas 4, dinadaldal niya sa social media. Pag-aralan mo munang maigi para hindi ka nakukuryente. Di ba?
Na sinasabi niya, bakit hindi alam na ibang grupo yung existence ng motion for reconsideration? Dahil yung ginagawa ko, hindi dapat malaman ni Atty. Trixie. Why? Baka pag nalaman ni Atty. Trixie, ibenta yung ginagawa ko. All Atty. Trixie has to do, if my recommendation is favorable to the respondent, look for the respondent and tell the respondent, gusto mo manalo sa kaso mo? Bigay ka lang ng 20 million. It happened several times. Bigay ka lang 20 million, ako nang bahala kay ombudsman. Bigay ka 20 million, wala namang kaalam-alam yung ombudsman. Ang delikado lang doon, which happened in one case, ni-reverse ng ombudsman yung recommendation ng investigating officer, yung findings. So medyo may nagbalik ng 25 million doon sa kasong yon. This is a case somewhere in Batangas, Yun na nakakatakot doon. So hindi po pwedeng sasabihin mo yung ginagawa mo eh. Otherwise, mabubukulan ka.
Daming kwento pala ni Justice Sammy.
So,
That is why I think Ombudsman
Yes, sir.
Remulla should look into the culture sa Ombudsman. Anong nangyayari? Bakit ganito ang sistema sa Ombudsman?
okay. So, this is an exciting show. Ang hirap tumapos. We're running out of time and there's still a lot to discuss. So
catch the part 2 of our conversation with former Senate President Frank.
Ayun na nga mga kababayan, dito na rin natatapusin ang ating reaction video. Grabe, malupitan ho talaga yung mga nangyaring talakayan dyan sa The Spokes, no? Maraming salamat ho. Mag-ingat ho kayo lahat. Al lahat ng Pilipinas. Maraming salamat.